But as you know, this afternoon or the whole day, actually started yesterday, it's been about Airbus politics, and we've been talking about that here. In fact, there is a press release by Airbus. I'll read that statement to you. We'll tell you what's contained in it this afternoon. But Kwesi Parker-Wilson went to that press conference organized by the governing NPP. Well, the update to that story essentially is that President Akufo-Addo has, through a communication we got from the Flagstaff of the Jubilee House yesterday, referred this matter to the Office of the Special Prosecutor. The Office of the Special Prosecutor has yet to speak on this matter, but as you know, the NPP has been speaking. So Parker is here with me. Parker, you went to this press conference at which the NPP party officials indicates that as far as they're concerned, everything points to the former president, because it was during his regime or during his tenure that is the period under review. Did they provide any evidence to back the accusations they make? Okay, so they start to do that with making reference to the former president Mahama's book, that is My First Coup d'etat. And if you recall that in the book, the former president narrated how his brother, Samuel Adams Mahama, lost touch with the family because the father, he was adopted by UK nationals, and then he actually became a UK national, and then later in the 90s, he had to reunite with the family. So according to the NPP's Director of Communication, if you look at that directive in the book, where the president wrote himself, and the identity of the intermediary five, what it means is that it's pointing to Samuel Adams Mahama. Okay, that's what we need to just fix a little bit of a problem with your microphone, Parker, quickly. But I need to just let our viewers take a look at this press release that we're getting from Airbus. Now, this is what it says. It talks essentially about the agreement and what it includes. They say the agreements include investigations by authorities into the company. This outcome is a result of reporting, cooperation and new compliance standards at Airbus. And it says Airbus is determined to conduct business with integrity. Essentially what that does is to let you know, they provide you with a certain level of context to which all this case is unfolding. So it talks about Amsterdam, 31st January 2020. Airbus reached a final agreement with the French Parquet National Financier, the PNF, the UK Serious Fraud Office, and the US Department of Justice, DOJ, resolving the authorities' investigations into allegations of bribery and corruption, as well as the US Department of State and the DOJ to resolve their investigations into inaccurate and misleading filings made by the DOS pursuant to the US international traffic terms. So it talks in that paragraph about the agreement that has been reached. And then in the next paragraph, it talks about how much they've agreed to pay. So if you follow this story, it says that Airbus agreed to settle that matter. And in settling that matter, they're paying fines to the tune of about 4 million euros. And it states all of those there. It says Airbus has agreed to pay penalties of 3.598 million euros plus interest and costs to the French, UK and US authorities. The settlement with each authority are as follows, and then it breaks it down, which is the total it gives you. It goes on to say that Airbus received credit from the authorities for having reported and for its consistently strong cooperation during the investigation. So what else does the statement say? It says that Airbus agreed to enter into what they're calling a convention judiciaire d'intérêt public with the PNF, and that agreement does not amount to an admission of liability. Under this agreement, the PNF has agreed to suspend prosecution of Airbus for a duration of 3 years. Prosecution will be discontinued if Airbus complies with the terms of the agreement throughout this period, which it is committed to doing. The agreement also contains an obligation for Airbus to submit its compliance program to targeted audits carried out by the Agence Française Anti-Corruption over a period of 3 years. So that is about the what they're doing as far as the French counterparts are concerned. And then they talk about the deferred prosecution agreement with the Special Fraud Office. This has to do with the United Kingdom. It says that Airbus agreed to enter into a deferred prosecution agreement with the SFO. This agreement does not amount to an admission of liability. Under this agreement, the SFO has agreed to suspend prosecution of Airbus. So the same thing with the UK. Let's go to the United States of America and their agreements with the US. It says deferred prosecution agreements with the DOJ. Airbus again has agreed to enter into a deferred prosecution agreement. Under this, the DOJ has agreed to suspend prosecution. So if you look at the 3 paragraphs, it talks about their interaction with France, the interaction with the UK, and then the interaction with the US. They say it does not amount to admittance of liability. Consent agreement with the DOS. Finally, it says Airbus has agreed to enter into a consent agreement with the DOS. Under this agreement, the DOS has agreed to settle all civil violations of the ITA outlined. Voluntary disclosures identified in the consent agreement, and Airbus has agreed to retain an independent export control compliance officer who will monitor the effectiveness of Airbus's export control systems in their compliance with the ITAR. For legal reasons, Airbus cannot make any comment on the agreed statements of facts published by the investigating authorities. Airbus has taken significant steps to reform itself and to ensure that this conduct will not recur. Airbus has significantly enhanced its compliance system under the provision of an independent compliance review panel. The company is committed to conducting business with integrity. It goes on to quote a statement by Dennis Rank, who is a chairman of the board of directors of Airbus. And that statement is right there. We'll put this statement on our website, myjoyonline.com, to take your time and take a look at it. So this is a response from Airbus. Like they've indicated, they're not willing to go into the facts of the matter as has been published. But Parker, you are here. Even though they don't go too much into the facts of the matter has actually given the NPP the grounds for which they organized this press conference. Right. Tell us more. You were telling us the reason why they believe it former President John Mahama's questions to answer.
Yes, so I mentioned about Samuel Adams Mahama, who is actually the brother to former President John Dramani Mahama, and he himself, the former president himself, in his My First Coup d'etat, stated how he lost touch with his brother who was in the UK. And so in the court document, which I know you've read, clearly talks about the intermediary 5, who is a close associate or a relative or a brother to government official 1. So if you look at the identity of the intermediary 5, according to the MPP, it fits the identity of Samuel Adams Mahama.
So they came to the press conference with the book, a copy of My First Coup d'etat?
No, they read excerpts of the book where they quoted the portion where the former president himself stated the identity of the brother Samuel Adams Mahama. So on that basis, the MPP concluded that if you look at the identity of Adams Mahama, who is the brother to former President John Dramani Mahama, then what it means is that government official 1, as cited in the court document, clearly is John Dramani Mahama. Okay. So they have no doubt in their mind that the government official 1 is former President John Dramani Mahama. And if he thinks he's not the one, he should publicly tell Ghanaians that he is not the one. He wasn't involved in the purchase of the aircraft or the bribery scandal. And perhaps if he wasn't, who then was involved? They want all those names out. They didn't give any timeline, but they believe that if he fails to do that, then what it means is the former president is not fit to lead this country again. In fact, if the NDC allows him to contest on their ticket, it's going to affect the image of this country.
That's what the NPP
that's what the NPP is saying. So that's what the director of communication for the party, Yabwabina Samoa, said this afternoon at the press conference.
And so they are expecting that the former president would respond to this, or the NDC should disallow him from contesting.
And Claire, he said that yesterday the former Attorney General Marita Biopon defended the former president, and the party said that that was quite a weak an argument to put out there, they don't believe that what the former AG is saying is true. So they want the President Mahama himself, but they've called him out to come and then explain himself better to the people of this country, who he wants to govern again.
Well, Parker, thank you very much for that update. Kwesi Parker Wilson monitored that press conference by the governing NPP held a couple of hours back. And as you know, the NDC led that press conference after the NPP's press conference, but they did not talk about this at all. They focused on the voters' register.